Hello, everybody. Welcome back to episode 3 of the Minecraft Mining Podcast, your one stop shop for everything Minecraft and Minecraft related. So, guys, we have a lot going on in today's episode. Of course, you guys know that I missed last week's episode, and that was because of the terrible ice and snowstorm that we actually had gotten, and kind of knocked out power, knocked out internet. So, I kind of had to skip a week, and man, a lot happened in that week. But guys, today's guest will actually be none other than Dski himself, and we are actually going to have him in the beginning of the episode. Now, you guys who have been listening to these episodes for, of course, the whole entire time that I've been doing these, know that we typically have our guests in the end, but Dski himself is, well, for one, he's the realm owner, so I'm going to give him a little bit more of a spotlight, and two, Dski has some really interesting things to talk about, and we've actually been talking a little bit prior to this episode. So we're going to go ahead actually and start this episode off by getting Dski on the line here, and we're going to pick his brain for a little bit. All right, guys, we are here with none other than Dski himself. He is the realm owner and, basically the backbone of the server. So, if you want to go ahead and say hi, Dski, to all of your adoring fans.
What's happening, everybody?
All right, so me and you talked a little bit prior to this video, of course, and we kind of know where we're going to go with this in general. But I think it's fair that we, give you the same treatment as everybody else. So, tell everyone about yourself, how you started Minecraft, YouTube, and all that good stuff.
Oh yeah. So Kay and I, we started playing Minecraft probably around 2016, 2017. We got into that together, started having a lot of fun. It was a way to bond. I'm a single dad, so that was kind of really important, actually, having a daughter, to have something like Minecraft that we both enjoyed and could do together. And we had gotten into doing our own worlds and builds and stuff, and then we kind of found a realm that was called, I believe it was called Insanecraft. And the realm owner there, the problem then was that, a lot of realms don't allow kids. And the realm owner there was really cool and allowed me to have Kay with me, on the realm. And that was our first experience with working on a realm with other players and being in an environment where you see multiple creations from different people and, work together for goals and community projects and things like this. So we just have enjoyed it ever since then. And then we left that one and we began doing some other realms of our own that eventually led into the idea of Forever Bedrock. Kay and I basically do enjoy the Bedrock version of the game the most and really don't have any designs currently. That may change. We'll get into that later, I think. But we have no designs on switching over to Java. I think the Bedrock platform is the way of the future of Minecraft, and that's something that we decided to kind of run with the idea behind Forever Bedrock, is having a realm that didn't necessarily reset. I mean, at some point in time, I'm sure we'll have to reset it due to file sizes and things like that. But we wanted something that would grow constantly, so that people would never feel forced to finish a build so that they could get into the next season or things like that. So that's kind of the long and short of it.
Yeah, I never knew you were actually on another realm prior to this one. I thought this was just your only one.
Yeah, we had Insanecraft was that first one, and then there was another realm called the Frontier that we were on for a bit with a few players, and then after that was right into starting our own, getting Forever Bedrock started.
Okay. And then how long has Forever Bedrock been running?
Ooh, let's see. This particular version that we're all in now started in June. Right when 1.17 dropped, but it had been going for about a year previous to that with some other members.
Okay. See, I didn't know that. I kind of came in late, for those of you that don't know. I think I'm the newest member, right? Technically.
Yeah, I would say so. You were Fluffy. Which
I think
you?
he joined like 2 weeks before I did.
Yeah, you guys were really close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we also like to talk about YouTube. So you have it changes like every day, but you're at like 1,700 subscribers right now?
Somewhere in that ballpark. What do we have? Seven. I just pulled it up actually, since you put me on the spot there a little. That's all right. 1761. Yeah.
Wow. So
Yeah.
what are your plans for YouTube? Or what are your goals?
Actually, our goals are to make this a full-time venture. That's something that Kay and I really enjoy doing things that help other people. And there's so many people that play the Bedrock version of the game, and Bedrock unfortunately doesn't seem to have the creator base out there as much as Java when it comes to tutorials or game mechanics information and things like that. So what we intend to do, obviously, is keep pushing on the channel, keep providing content to the player base that is ultimately in the end helpful to them.
Yeah, definitely. You guys release a lot of tutorials, a lot of shorts. You guys kind of have content a little bit everywhere, right?
Yeah, that a lot of that is just trying to see what the viewers do want. There's obviously a little bit of like, when you do YouTube, you have to kind of please the audience, and then you have to kind of make the content fit that. So, one of those things is throwing the spaghetti at the wall, so to speak, and seeing what sticks with the viewers, and then adapting, the kind of educational side of it, I guess you would call it, to what they're looking for. So it's always a little bit of a test with YouTube.
Yeah, really. I like the spaghetti at the wall reference too. I gotta remember sometimes we're a PG channel here.
Yeah, you gotta see what sticks to the wall, not what goes through the fan.
All right, so let's discuss what is it, the white rabbit in the room or something? What do people say? A
The
giant
elephant in the room.
the elephant. Okay, that was completely the wrong animal. Right. So you put out a video actually today, which is Friday the 8th.
Yes.
Okay, so you're
18.
18th. Wow,
Yeah.
I'm a whole half month behind. But anyway, so you put out a new video today called "Minecraft Bedrock is Garbage," correct?
Why? I think it was why is Minecraft. I can't remember the exact title now. As a matter of fact. Why Minecraft Bedrock is garbage, and can we fix it?
Okay, so and this is also from following Dski on Twitter. If you guys follow him, it's the same name, right, as your gamer tag.
I believe it's K's Creations
Okay, so it's under
at
Case
K's
Creation.
Creations on Twitter. Yeah,
Okay, so it's under
it's in our description and everything.
okay, so it's under his YouTube channel name. Okay, so you're pretty outspoken about Minecraft bugs, parody, and you've become more and more outspoken. I mean, as time's gone on, right?
Um, I don't know that I would say outspoken as much as um, I think more voices need to be heard,
Okay.
and I'm not afraid to jump in that fire. Maybe to our own detriment, but I think and part of that is alluded to in the video. I think more voices need to be heard to improve the game.
Okay. And then so basically for those don't know, like all this basically kind of started from whenever they removed the XP bug, correct? That was kind of like when this all kind of started coming around.
Yeah, that was one of the bigger driving factors. There have been, and just in a nutshell, what really kind of pushed the video is, and obviously I don't think Minecraft is garbage. That's a little bit of kind of
Clickbait.
sleight of hand, clickbait, but it does relate to the actual content of the video,
Yeah,
so it's not. But what I've seen happening recently is there's been a lot of improvements to Bedrock, but a lot of the improvements seem to diminish the player's experience, as opposed to what we see on the feedback page of what the player base would like to see done and changed. So we're seeing a lot of movement. We're seeing a lot of good changes, but with those good changes are coming these things that where we're taking away things from the Bedrock player, making the experience of playing the game more difficult, more time consuming, less enjoyable without fixing root cause issues in the first place. And so that is the basis of the video and what we can do about that. As the Bedrock community, as the Bedrock player base, what are our options? How should we go about making change?
Yeah, definitely. And like you pointed out in the video, like there's what 5 million copies sold this year or something of Bedrock Edition, and
Yeah,
only like 2,000 people vote.
that was just Xbox. That's
Okay.
Xbox sales. 10 million downloads on the Google Play app.
Okay, so that's like mobile devices and stuff like that, right?
So you're talking 15 million. That's Switch, that's tablets, that's phones. So even, like even if let's go really outside the box and say, okay, well, half of those are a person's second version of the game. They have the PC version or whatever, or the Xbox version, and they downloaded it on their phone or their tablet so they could play on break at work or so. Okay, well, that's still 7.5 million.
Yeah, that's an exorbitant amount of people.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that was one of the main driving points of the video is that when you look at the changes that are being implemented, my personal opinion is the devs and the Bedrock team are simply going by the signals that they're being sent. When there's between 7.5 and 15 million users, and the biggest issue has 18,000 votes, I'm walking out of the office every day thinking, woohoo, we're killing it. They love our game.
That is a good point.
Yeah, I mean, that's not even 0.5% of the player base that is bringing an issue forth. I'm leaving the office of Mojang every day skipping, I'm like, yeah, nothing's wrong, everything's cool.
Yeah, I mean that would be great for a game developer. I mean, you can ask Fred about that.
Yeah. I mean, any business would love that. And that was the other thing that I tried to tie into the video is to get people to understand. Like Bedrock, we know is definitely there's a lot of, let's say, kids, and I don't mean to be like picking on kids or anything, but there's a lot of the audience or the player base that, number one, probably doesn't even have access to Minecraft.net to make a bug report or to voice their opinion. But people that age aren't concerned about 100% TNT drops necessarily. They're not concerned about mob spawning rates. They're kids that play the game for fun or to kill some time. And that's another thing that I don't think the developers at Mojang, or especially in the Bedrock team, I don't know that they understand that the data that they're seeing there on Minecraft.net is probably not relevant to what's really going on in the player base or what's really important.
Yeah, that's a great point, actually. Now that I sit and think about it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're looking at this, they have this great tool, I mean, I wouldn't say it's great, actually. they told, that's a whole nother video of revamping the feedback site, but they have the tool there. But yeah, I wonder if they really understand that the data that they're getting is probably, number one, not from the entire player base. It's from a very small percentage of it to begin with. Just by age, is it excluding? A lot of kids don't have an email address to log into, have an account with something like that. But yeah, I mean, and then you do have to factor. You have to balance. It is a game. It's a video game, right? So kids play video games. So you have to have some balance there between what, say, grown-ups or adults and tech players want and what the larger buying public wants, which would be the kids, which is some of maybe the features like frogs and the biomes being nicer, etc., etc. but you have to balance that. And I don't know that they're really seeing that overarching. When you look at the feedback site, it's filled with a lot of ideas that aren't from that tech or adult community, to me.
Okay, well that does make sense. So it's like they're using it, but it's not for the same purposes, basically.
Yeah, I don't think they're just getting. I don't know that they're getting accurate data. I think their data that they're getting is kind of muddled. It's just not giving them the clearer signal of what the player base truly wants, because of those limitations of so much of the Bedrock player base being children, and many of them not even having access to be able to submit an idea or a complaint or an issue that needs to be fixed. And just generally, aside from that, it does also play in is the layout of the site, or the actual use to report something leaves a lot to be desired.
Yeah, I've never actually been on the site myself, so I couldn't even start to tell you what it looks like or anything along those lines. So
to actually report a bug is a monumental task.
is it really that bad?
It's very difficult. There are what you end up, your first task when you want to report a bug is obviously you want to search the database. Once you get to the bug tracker page, you want to search the database to see if it's already been reported. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that you find is just there are so many that it's impossible to filter through, and there's so many duplicates that don't get deleted. So your search pulls up all, and then you have to basically end up scrolling through all of these to find out which is the actual active one on that issue that you're looking to give information on. So it's a very difficult thing to manage. Most adults, again, can probably fight their way through it. It's by no means easy, even for adults. But then, like I said, when we start factoring in kids that are mainly the Bedrock community, they're not going to be able to navigate that or navigate it well.
Nope.
We need a better feedback site.
Yeah, there you go.
That's basically the point.
Kay says we need a better feedback site.
Okay, hold on. Craig just left.
Now recording.
Okay, Craig's back. I have my microphone on, so I can cut that in, so don't worry about that.
Okay, cool.
So, yeah, Craig just decided to quit recording halfway through. All right. Next question up. Do you feel that Java Edition more unfairly gets, not better updates, but more support from Mojang?
Well, I think there's a lot of factors, and obviously the game was developed originally for PC, and the Java version of the game was the first version. So the history obviously goes back to day one, mm-hmm. With Java. So the community, I think, has been established longer per se, right? So you have that factor, and then you also have the factor that the largest creator pool that began back then were Java players. Well, creators are advertisers. Oh, yeah. So the let's see, the Mumbos, the Doc M77s, the Nembombs, all those guys in the tech communities, Grian and others in the building community like Corrales. You have a lot of very, very large channels that advertise the game. Mm-hmm. So I'll give you a good example just to kind of keep it brief. When they wanted to change Iron Golem spawning mechanics, there were meetings, if I understood it correctly, and I think I do, there were actual meetings with the tech community of Java because they didn't want to nerf Iron Farms for Java, but wanted to make some improvements to Bedrock and kind of bring them closer to parity. But they actually met, before they made that change, they sat down and talked specifically with the tech community in the Java. So, that's a perfect example of they didn't seem to want to even dare make a change without getting the input from the tech community, from like the respected tech creators and people that were known.
Mm-hmm. And you figure Nembaum now works for Mojang.
Oh yeah,
You have, like, all the Java players who were in the tech community or whatever are all from Java Edition. None of them
Right.
are from Bedrock Edition.
Right. And so you have that advertising of the game with all of them, with so many years. So I think there is a natural kind of leaning toward, hey, this community helped us get where we are, and we're going to listen. Now, another side of that is just that I honestly do believe, when you look at YouTube and you look at all the creators, whether they're Java or Bedrock, there's in the Java community in general seems to be like a more mature community. Like it appeals to an older set as well as kids. But I think by and large, if you took the two communities, the Java community is probably much older people
Oh yeah,
compared
I
to
can agree with that. Yeah.
yeah. So I think you have that same thing that I was kind of trying to drive that point home in the video that we did today, was that we need everyone, because we do have so many people that maybe don't have a voice or can't log in, can't get an account to log in and voice their opinion. So we need everyone that is able to get in there and start having our voices heard, because clearly the Java community already has that.
Yeah. Yeah, especially with an older player base, that all makes sense and all kind of
Right.
ties together.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, that's the way forward. I think it's a positive way forward too, rather than, I'm you see it in Facebook groups, you see it in Reddit threads. I'm not a big Reddit fan, but you see it there every now and then. You see everybody belly aching and complaining, and I'm one of them. I'm guilty of that. Plenty of times on Twitter that I throw something out that seems negative, but it's usually meant more just to point something out. But when you look at the data that the devs are getting, that the Mojang staff are getting, when you look at the data that they're getting from the feedback site, it's like, it's like not even 0.5% of the people.
Yeah. Yeah, now that you kind of like put it in all those relative terms, I mean, what you say all makes sense.
Yep, we all need to get on that site, get those numbers boosted, and I think then you'll see some real change. Like the more that the Bedrock community behaves in the same manner as the Java community does, I think then all of a sudden, then Mojang is going to see that, oh, okay, wait, hang on, there's more to there's more to this. There's these concerns that are legitimate, that are pressing in the community. So hopefully.
Now, within the community itself, do you feel that the Bedrock community is more constrained with certain things? Because everything in Bedrock's locked behind the marketplace. Whereas, like, Java, you can just go download a mod.
Oh yeah, that's another drawback, and that plays into the whole idea of the advertising aspect of the Java community versus Bedrock creators, so to speak. Um, because you're at a distinct disadvantage as a creator in Bedrock. Replay mod would be the number one.
Yeah.
The ability to do time lapses in Bedrock is just severely hampered. I mean, thank God for Foxy No Tail and his add-ons. They're a little bit difficult to work with, but you're at least able to do some relatively cool things, like that you're able to do in Java with no problem.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I think that was about 20-ish minutes. So I'm going to ask you one last question. And this is either going to be an easy one or a hard one for
Oh, it doesn't matter either way.
you. All right. Do you ever think that there will be 100% parity between Java and Bedrock?
No, I don't think. Here. All right, here we go. What I do think, and this is something I've every now and then I've had some discussions with Prowl 8413 and a couple others on Twitter about. I think in the future, this is years out from now. I don't see Mojang or Microsoft supporting two versions of the game forever.
Yeah.
I think with systems like Geyser that allow crossplay between Java and Bedrock on servers.
Mhm.
I think more and more what you're going to see is kind of a melding of the two, and that eventually support.
Be like one big game.
Yeah, that's what I see. I don't see code-wise, I can't see the Java mechanics ever completely transferring 100% to Bedrock. So I think what the end goal is to merge them together into one main game. Java will still be there, it just won't be supported any longer, from the Minecraft, from the Mojang crew or whatever. But I see that as the future. And just from a business, again, that was like one of the points I brought up in the video. Mojang and Microsoft are businesses.
Mhm.
And at some point you have to look at all your processes or all your products and say, do we need this?
Yeah.
And do we need two versions of the game? And I think 5-10 years from now, as the technology improves and things, I think one game is going to capture all the elements that are good in both, and that's what they'll roll with.
And do you think technically that would be Bedrock then? Only because it's actually coded in actual gaming language as opposed to Java?
Oh, I think the Bedrock, the C++ is going to be the way of the future, and I think another reason for that is the sales. I mean, the cross-platform play is always going to be kind of the Achilles heel, because you're subject to the lowest common denominator, like what the lowest device can handle, what it's able to do.
Yeah.
And I think with the advancements that are going to be coming in computer technology, and there's another whole thing out there that's called the Aether Engine, that's made by a company named Hayden, that Minecraft recently has been working with that company. They had up to 1,200 players on a realm with zero lag with utilizing that. And basically what it does is it takes all the calculations of the game and puts them in the cloud. So
Wow.
you can have these massive game lobbies. Like I said, they did a test. It was 1,200 players with like almost absolutely no lag. That's the way of the future, and I'm sure that Java will fit into that. But I think more and more what we're going to see is a melding of the two together into one game.
Yeah. That's a very solid point. That's pretty much what I think too.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
hopefully they bring some of the positive elements in. That's one thing. Those parity issues are important, and I hope that long list of parity issues that is on the feedbacks. I hope they do implement all those to whatever version it Minecraft eventually becomes.
yeah, that would be beyond great. I mean, but for both communities. But
Yeah, I think honestly, I think looking ahead, it's all positive. I mean, there's a lot of the negatives that are going on, but I think when you take a step back and look to the future, there's a lot of cool stuff that could be coming.
yeah. Yeah, this game is basically limitless and endless.
Yes, yeah.
All right. Well, D, I appreciate your time. I know you were kind of a little pressed for time, but thank you
No,
for
you got
making
it. Yeah.
time and coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having us.
You're missing a little fun on the server right now because Freb and Joe are in my base doing God knows what.
You better check those dispensers for your XP.
That's long distance. Yeah, really.
All right.
Hey, D, I'll see you later. Thank you very much.
All right, man. Take care. We'll catch up with you soon.
All righty.
Thanks for
Bye-bye.
having us. Take it easy.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that interview with none other than Dski himself, the realm owner. He is a very passionate Minecraft player, and he just wants the best for the community. And after listening to him, I think you guys can all kind of agree with what he's saying. We do need to make our voices heard if we want to see change in this game, because let's face it, like he said, there has been bugs that have plagued this game for many years. So, take his advice, and if you can, go to the bug tracker, and of course, make sure you say, hey, there's bugs here. We need to fix these. But guys, we are actually going to delve into the main part of the podcast now, and with missing a week of the podcast, there's a lot that has happened. So let's talk about the first thing, or the most recent thing, and actually this just came out, I believe, 2 days ago as of filming this podcast, and that is actually they released the first build of the Warden and the underground deep dark cities. Now, like I said, I don't play the betas and I don't do the experimental tests because I kind of like to wait, but I do watch other people play it because, I mean, why not, right? So, the Warden is everything they kind of said it was going to be. And basically, he's this, I guess you can consider him a boss. Maybe he's not necessarily a boss because you're not really supposed to fight him, but he's just this insanely strong entity that lives in the deep dark cities. And I guess from what I've seen on like screenshots and stuff like that, he's like protecting something. So of course, you know, they also, along with the Warden, released the Skulk block, the Skulk sensor, and all of those blocks too. So, you know, if you look up on YouTube, you can see people playing around with those. But I wasn't too interested in those, only because, I mean, I'm really just more interested in the Warden and the Deep Dark Cities. And the Deep Dark Cities are pretty massive from what I've seen. They don't spawn as commonly as, like, just regular Deep Dark stuff. So you can find, like, small pockets of Skulk and stuff like that. But Deep Dark Cities do spawn a little less infrequently. They're kind of, like, rare. I guess you could kind of consider them like ocean monuments, but in caves with, like, spawning frequency. So I have seen people attempt to try and kill the Warden with, you know, just a sword and running around. And, I mean, I haven't seen anybody that has been successful. It doesn't mean anybody hasn't. But it basically just reinstates the fact that, you know, you're not supposed to kill this mob. It's just a mob to guard something. Now, something they did release along with the Warden in the Deep Dark Cities is a block. And it is a deep slate variant. And it looks kind of like a... I don't know the best way to describe it. It's kind of like a deep slate block in the center, but then has like pillars on the outside. And it looks pretty neat. It's a really cool block. The only problem is they give us a really cool block like that, and it's not obtainable in survival technically. So there are videos out there of people mining this block already, but they're also mining it with efficiency 255, you know, kind of like modded kind of stuff. And you can mine it with that, but you can't mine it with a regular, like, efficiency 5 beacon haste pickaxe. Like, it's just not going to happen. So it's not a mineable block, but this block is kind of unique in the fact that it's movable by a piston, but it has the blast resistance of bedrock. So you basically have what I can foresee as like a movable wither cage. Because, you know, on this server on Forever Bedrock, we have a wither killer and it's made out of bedrock. So we now have a movable wither cage, possibly. Now, I mean, this is subject to change, and this is just the first release, all this. And, of course, you know, if you guys play on the experimental features, they do change a lot. And, you know, it is what it is. But right now, this is really cool. And this is something we haven't had in the game before. So I'm kind of interested to see where they take this. And, of course, I mean, I've been waiting for the Warden. Any sort of new boss, you know, it was kind of cool in Minecraft. We really haven't had a new boss or sub-boss, if you want to consider it that, really in quite a while. I mean, the bosses in the game are pretty straightforward. We all know them. You know, there's the Elder Guardian, the Water Temple, the Withers, the Dragon. And, you know, really that's about it in terms of hard enemies in this game, in terms of combat. And, you know, they did a lot more updates, it seems like, of, like, building and stuff like that. But not really any boss updates lately. And I'm probably missing a boss or two, but, you know, those are the main ones, right? So, yeah, I mean, definitely excited about the Warden and excited to see where it's going to go. And I hope you guys are too, because this is something that, like I said, it's just so different, but it's so cool at the same time, right? So, also in updates, guys, we had a new UI update for experimental features. So, I mean, this isn't like a super exciting thing. It's just like, hey, there's kind of a new menu system. And from what I've seen of it, it's nice. I mean, it's a menu. Like, what are you really going to say about a menu, you know? But it's nice. It's just, it's cleaner. that's about all you can really say. It's just a cleaner version of the menus. The only problem is whenever games are out for as long as, Minecraft has been, because let's face it, this game is like, what are we at, like almost 12 years old? I mean, you move stuff around, and it kind of is just like, why? Like, everybody knew where stuff was. I mean, it's cleaner, yeah, but I already know where the stuff is. Like, I don't want to go searching for it again. But the cool thing is, and I have seen, they have added the super flat feature to Bedrock Edition, and I've never been able to find it. Now, I do know some Bedrock players have a super flat world. Like, I'm pretty sure Dski, who we interviewed earlier, actually has a super flat test world, and I don't know how exactly players got that, because I've never been able to find, where to click to get one, and they're super handy. And basically, it's just, for those of you that don't know, it's just literally a flat world. So you don't have hills and mountains and all that stuff. It's just flat, which is great for like doing builds or, testing stuff and all that. Definitely very handy. And something that, like, you guys have seen my test world, and I have to build around like mountains and hills, and I have to level stuff, and it's just a pain is really what it boils down to. I mean, it's not like it's impossible, but it just makes stuff harder. So I have seen that they added an option for that, which, I mean, that's really cool. And, a parity feature, because let's face it, Java has had super flat for basically as long as I can remember. I mean, I'm pretty sure it came in one of the early updates. So, it's cool that we're catching up in terms of just worlds. So, another parity thing they added is they finally fixed. So originally, whenever, I know I cut myself off there mid-sentence, but I'm kind of excited about this one. So originally, whenever they started with the seed parity on Bedrock to Java, it was basically, it wasn't half. I mean, it's like an astronomical number difference, but Bedrock basically could match Java seeds up to a certain integer, and I think it was up to 1,000,000 seeds or something like that in the positive and negative direction, which, I mean, it's a lot of seeds, because it ended up being like, okay, there's now like 1,000,000,000 seeds that are the same thing. And I mean, that's a lot, really it is. But now they ended up matching it so all of the seeds are the same. So Java and Bedrock have the exact same seeds. And it's definitely really nice, because, I mean, this is a Bedrock realm. And, being on, if you were a Java player, you could easily just, type in this seed and get the same thing, basically. But if you're a Bedrock player, you're kind of handicapped if they're playing with a seed outside of the matching limit. And a lot of players like to play along with content creators that they watch. And, I mean, it's cool that you can do that. And a lot of them will be like, they'll go look for stuff for the content creator to save him time. Be like, hey, you missed a mob spawner at, 48X and 27Z or something like that. And it's just cool, and it creates a tighter-knit community, I think. And that's something that's, really cool, that we can now play along with everybody, and there's parity amongst both Java and, console or phone or whatever, platform you play on. And I think this game is taking, leaps and bounds in terms of parity. But like Dski said, I don't know if they'll ever be 100% parity, just because of the different coding language, which we actually did touch on one of our earlier episodes. The fact that Java's coded in, Java. And, of course, Bedrock is coded in C++. And for those of you that don't know coding language, basically C++ is the main coding language of, like, what you would consider a regular game. So, any normal other game that you play aside from Minecraft is basically C++, and Minecraft, of course, started on Java, which is not a long-term stable platform for coding. And, of course, if you have a game that's going for 10 plus years like this is, you don't want an unstable game. That's kind of, if you guys follow the, of course, creators on Twitter or any of the Mojang employees, they talk about fixing bugs and so on and so forth, and parity issues. But they said the problem with the game is how it was coded on Java. It's kind of like, it's just like, I believe they used the word like spaghetti code. I'm not a coder. If you guys happen to want to know more about that, that's kind of something you'd have to ask Freb, because he's into all that stuff. And but he's into all that stuff. and he knows, basically what all it means. But it's pretty much to the point where Minecraft... Ow, quit hitting me. What are you? But it's basically to the point now where, like, if you fix a bug in Minecraft, the code you enter to fix it or change something basically breaks like 10 other things in the game. And that's just because of, this game. I don't know if this game was ever meant to last this long. I honestly don't. I mean, we all know that Notch started this game in 09, kind of. I mean, it was kind of a shell of the former or the current game. But it really makes you wonder if he thought that it was going to last this long, or if he just did it, just because that was where his abilities laid, I guess would be the best way to say it. And like I said, who knows if he thought this was going to... He obviously had no idea this was going to grow into what it is. I mean, you're talking a multi-billion, if not trillion-dollar game that we're all playing. And, I mean, have enjoyed for 11, 12 years. And really, there aren't many games like that. Like, I sit here and look at my library, and I go, okay, well, what games have I played for this long? And basically, it comes down to, I played Skyrim. And Skyrim actually came out technically the same time as Minecraft. It technically isn't, because Skyrim came out in 2011. And... like I said, that's technically the same time Minecraft officially released, but Minecraft was around since 09. So it's not the same thing, but it is the same thing, if you kind of catch my drift there. So, yeah, I mean, Skyrim came out, of course, they released the DLCs for it, and they really haven't done any updates to the game since, because the game's done, quote-unquote. It's not, it's not Minecraft, which is technically never finished. If you were one of the original players, you happen to remember the inf dev stage. And I really don't think Minecraft is past the inf dev stage. I don't think it'll ever actually be past the inf dev stage. And for those of you that don't know, inf dev is short for infinite development. It was after alpha and beta. And it was basically Minecraft's way of saying, hey, we were going to release the game, but there's still a lot to work on. And there is still a lot to work on. And of course, with parity and the many, many, many bugs, of course, Dski was talking about, from what I saw at least, maybe he didn't mention it specifically during our interview, but, there was technically a bug. And it is a bug, but XP furnaces, okay, so furnaces that you smelted anything in would double the amount of XP in them, and then, like, you could just take the item out, and every single time you took one item out, it basically just kept doubling and doubling and doubling, and, I mean, it was a very, very, very broken system. I mean, there's no way around it. Like, it was broken, right? So, basically, what they did was they just completely removed the bug. Okay, well, that's fair. I mean, that's not how it's supposed to work. They did remove it. Fine. The problem is, on Bedrock, we're kind of handicapped with how we can get experience. So, Java mob spawning rates are way higher than Bedrock Edition. If you guys have never played Java, like, you can set up the same exact kind of mob farm on Java and Bedrock, and Java rates will blow Bedrock away all the time. And that's kind of like how Dski said, like, they kind of have to make the game so it would run on the lowest available platform. So a couple months ago, if you guys weren't happening to pay attention, they like kind of stopped supporting lower end devices, certain lower end devices for Bedrock Edition, which, I mean, makes sense because, I mean, at the end of the day, like, okay, it's cool that people who can't afford newer technology, or newer technology is hard to come by, they still have a chance to play a game that they love, and they can still enjoy the same things as everybody else. But at the same point, that's also holding back... Ow, why is everything hitting me? But it's also holding back the community in a sense, because you're handicapping the people who do. And like I said, that's kind of a terrible way to look at it, because it's like, oh, you can't afford, the new Windows XP Vista 97, you know, some people can't afford to upgrade computers and their operating systems and, so on and so forth. And we all know that a PC at the end of the day is 99% of the time going to be more powerful than, a handheld cell phone. So, like for instance, Fluffy, who's on the server, he plays on a tablet actually. And that's actually how he produces most of his videos. He's actually the only technically mobile player on the server. And that's great, because he has freedom to kind of go record. You guys remember we built that crib at his main base, and he has like the ability to go, okay, I have a kid now, I have stuff like other stuff to take care of, and he's not always going to be able to like sit down and record like say me or Dski, who both have like recording setups. Just we have an office and that's it, and this is where we record. He might be going to get his oil changed at Napa or, Advanced Auto Parts or something like that. And he's like, okay, I have 20 minutes. Like, I can film some content and I can do something. So, a tablet will never be able to compare to someone like Dski, who's a PC player. Dski can run RTX shaders and, all this crazy stuff. And, me, I'm kind of in like the middle ground because I still play on Xbox One. And I still do enjoy being a console player, but I know at some point I'm going to have to take this, of course, to a PC, because the builds I have planned and the ideas I have are great on a small scale. But if I ever want to do this on a big scale and actually like have it perform and be able to run shaders and give you guys tours and, of like, I don't want to say good stuff, because there's some very talented Pocket Edition players out there. Of course, one of the creators that got me into making Minecraft content was DallasMed65, and he started on Pocket Edition, and he's converted the world over. I believe he went through 2 or 3 iterations of Pocket Edition, and now he's on to, of course, PC Windows 10 Edition. And that was just because his world is just so large. And it's the same thing with like an Xbox console. I forget who it was. I believe it was actually Dallas who put up a video of his friend downloaded his world, and his friend had an Xbox One, and Dallas's world, I believe, is like around 2 gigabytes. And that's, just because it's 7 years old. He's explored so much and, built so much and done so much in the world that, the file size is huge. Well, his friend can't even run his world on an Xbox One. And, an Xbox One, granted, it's kind of outdated technology with the Xbox Series X being out, and, of course, the PlayStation 5 being out, if you're a PlayStation user. But, it just gets to a point where, as a console player, you can't long-term play on the same world. But, our single-player series, I know I haven't posted a video from that in quite a while, and I know a lot of you do look forward to that, but let's face it, if you guys can tell by what we're doing right now, stuff on the server takes a long time, because I'm building and doing stuff on a scale that has never been done before, at least by myself. Clearly, there's professional Minecraft players who have done this stuff and kind of make what I do look small. So, but yeah, okay, so we got a little bit off topic there. So, of course, we talked about the Warden guys, and we talked about, of course, the new parody features and the new UI. Now, there was actually a new update to Minecraft, and it is 1.18.10. And actually, as of recording this podcast, they actually did release 1.18.20. And so 1.18.20 was basically, I guess they, worked out all the kinks of frogs and tadpoles. That was basically the main point of 1.18.2. It wasn't like a super big update, but the big update was actually 1.18.1. And the biggest thing was that there was countless parody updates. And I'm going to say countless, but I have a list, and you could clearly count them, but I'm not going to, so therefore it's a countless list. Now, of course, Dski and me talked a little bit about parody, but, they'll never be perfectly the same. And of course, if you watch his video, there's a lot of parity updates that the Bedrock community does want for Java. But, you know, just starting off, I think this is a step in the right direction. And I am getting attacked by mobs constantly in this, so I'm going to fly up to the surface before I pull up this parity list. And I'm also going to get out of this block. Oh, gosh. Okay. Alright, we managed to get out of there safely. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and pull up this list here. Now, I do actually have this saved on my phone, and that's actually how I get a lot of lists. Thank you, Joe, for sleeping. So, here we go. Alright. Alright, so the two biggest changes to 1.18.10, like I said, there were a lot. This was actually a pretty big update. And basically, if I get all that in there, cool. So there were two big changes. So you can change the world settings directly on realms now, which is something you've never been able to do. So basically, if you have a single player world, you know how you can change like render distance and all that, and all that good stuff. It's basically you can do that now directly on a realm if you are the realm owner. So render distance and all that for like a player. So like myself, I don't own the realm, of course. Dski does. But he can go in there and he can change certain settings for the realm, difficulty, and all that stuff without having to shut down the realm. Excuse me, guys. So, I mean, that's handy for realm owners, you know, people who play on realms like me. Not so much, not really worried about it, and probably it doesn't affect most of you either. Also, so this is a pretty cool update. So, this actually only involves South Korea. Okay, so South Korea and most of the Eastern Asian countries are kind of strict about people who play video games and how long they play video games. So they basically have it so if you live in those countries, you can't play video games from certain amounts of time. So I think like in South Korea, you're not allowed to play video games from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. Like the government just won't let you. It's against the law. It's literally a crime. And you're also not allowed to play video games for certain amount of hours. So I'm doing this Minecraft mining podcast, right? So this takes about an hour. You know, our episodes aren't like, I'm not sitting here timing it. Like I just go until, you know, I get done talking about everything. But I believe in South Korea specifically, and I think China is actually the same way. They actually have laws that state like you cannot play video games for more than 3 consecutive hours. And I believe that changes during work days and school days. Now, the main reason for that is they don't want kids just playing video games all the time. They want them to, you know, focus on schoolwork, exercise, you know, other stuff. And I mean, it's not a terrible thing, you know, like occasionally go outside and get some fresh air. You know, that's not a bad thing, right? Go exercise, you know, that's a good thing. But I mean, it kind of stinks. It really does. Like, you kind of got to feel bad for them because, like, okay, like I said, this podcast is going to take an hour. And then I'm probably going to play for like another 3 or 4 after this just to get prepared to film the next episode that comes out. And, you know, if like I can only play for like 3 hours and that's it for the day and then my console just locks me out, like, you know, I mean, now that would be something that technically only affects like content creators, really. I mean, like I said, it just kind of stinks in general. Or like, you know, I don't know how big, like, let's say Madden is in, you know, South Korea, but, you know, if you play full 15-minute quarters in a game of Madden, then you spent 3 hours playing one single game and you're done for the day. So, but anyways, so basically, the South Korea change was they added a clock into Minecraft to be in compliance with local gaming laws. So basically I don't know if it's on screen or like you gotta, you know, go into your start menu like this, but they added like a little timer and it basically is like, hey, you're getting close to your time. You better turn this off. So, I mean, like I said, it stinks for them, but I mean, it is what it is, guys, you know. Feel sorry for you guys. And also, if you're from South Korea, subscribe to this channel. All right. So, the parity changes for 1.18. There's a long list, and this podcast might actually run over, which, I mean, I'm fine with, because this is actually pretty cool that we have a bunch of stuff to talk about. So, the first one is they added the banner globe pattern to Bedrock Edition. So, for those of you that make banners, of course, Java has a banner that you can put a globe on it, and we've never had that. I do believe that pattern is specifically sold at the Loom villager. The Shepherd or something like that. I do believe that's how you acquire it now. I don't know if you can make it. But if you're into, of course, banner making, you have another pattern that Java has. So, good for you. So, the raid boss bar. So, for those of you who have ever done a raid, of course, you have to kill one of the raid patrols, and then you get the Bad Omen effect. You walk in a village, and a raid spawns. Now, whenever you defeat a raid on Bedrock Edition, the bar says raid victory, and fireworks shoot from the ground. So that's kind of a small, subtle change, and I really don't think a lot of players are going to actually notice that because, first off, let's face it, unless you're going for Totems of Undying and don't have a raid farm, realistically, how many raids are you attempting to do? I mean, that's something I avoid. I instantly get the Bad Omen effect, and I'm drinking a bucket of milk. I mean, they're cool for about 6 seconds, and you do them once or twice, and you're like, okay, well, I'm done with these for a while because these are just annoying, and they're destroying my villages, right? So, I mean, once again, another cool, subtle parity change, but I don't think that one affects that many players because most people avoid raids. So, the next change is villagers actually now say no. So, if you lock out a villager's trade and you go to keep trading with them, they'll say no. Which, that one for me, that's more or less just a funny little parody change. I mean, it has a red X over it. Once again, not really a super massive change, and I really don't think that many people are going to notice it. It'll be funny for about 6 seconds, and let's face it, most people find the villager noises annoying as it is, because listening to "Harr" for about 5 or 10 minutes when you're in a massive villager trading hall gets on everybody's nerves. All right. So, well, I like how they didn't include this next to the raid villager, but another parity change was that players no longer get a particle effect when gaining Bad Omen. I actually have never really noticed that, and maybe I did whenever I tried to get Bad Omen just to be like, hey, we did a raid, yippee. But like I said, most players avoid raids, so really not a worthwhile change. And realistically, that's probably just a performance thing. I mean, less particles on screen, the easier it is for the game to run. So I don't realistically think that was a worthwhile change either. And that's kind of starting to see, a trend here. They also, Iron Golems now show their health by cracking. So on Java Edition, if you guys have never played Java and are strictly Bedrock players, of course, Iron Golems, whenever you would hit them with your sword a few times, they would start to show cracks. And it was kind of like they were breaking, I guess, essentially. And that was indicative of their health, kind of like how a wolf or a dog, their tail goes lower for their health. Well, Iron Golems would crack. And basically, we can now repair Iron Golems with Iron Ingots. So, if you have an Iron Golem that you use to protect a village, then you can just go ahead and, I believe it would be left trigger on consoles or right click on PCs to go ahead and repair the golems. Had to take me a little drink of water there, guys. Today we are drinking none other than H2O. But, so, another thing they did is they removed the emerald icon above a villager's head when you're trading. Once again, not a super big thing, but probably less on screen, probably more for performance. Alright, so they made it so Iron Golems only attack players that have very bad standing in a village after attacking a villager. So, I mean, this one is actually pretty useful. This is probably the first one we stumbled across that I would consider to be worthwhile. And basically, in Bedrock Edition, if you even so much as coughed on a villager the wrong way, the Iron Golem was attacking you, and Iron Golems are a pain to kill. I don't know if you guys have ever tried to kill an Iron Golem, legit, instead of stacking up 3 high where they can't get you, but it was basically like, if you did something bad in a village, that Iron Golem was permanently mad at you, and it actually took quite a while to go away, so I'm kind of glad that they made it so, basically, they're only mad at you if, like, you're, bad in villages. So, next parity change was Glow Lichen has similar brightness as Java Edition. Once again, was that really anything anybody noticed? Like, I know there's diehards out there, but I literally could have cared less. Nobody really uses Glow Lichen as a light source. Like, it's cool for caves and, like, mine builds and, I guess you could say castle builds. I guess that would also be cool, but Glow Lichen really isn't that big of a deal. I mean, once again, parity, it's cool, but sometimes parity isn't cool. Foxes now aim downwards when they pounce. Well, I am glad they changed that one, because realistically, how often do you use a fox? I don't even really know of that many Bedrock players that have a sweet berry farm with a fox. It was once again one of those things, like, foxes came out, cool, they can harvest sweet berries, because sweet berries came out at the same time, and then that was basically the extent of foxes. Nobody really has done a lot with foxes since then. They're kind of for lack of a better term, useless mob. I mean, they're cute, don't get me wrong, but what do they do in the game that was like, oh, great, they patched something about them. I've been waiting my whole life for them to jump downwards. And I picked a terrible time to get a dry spot in my throat because this list is rather long. Alright, so they updated the trade tables for butchers, cartographers, librarians, and wandering traders. Basically, they made them the same, and I'm kind of on the fence about this, but I mean, I guess it's cool. I don't know specifically what trades were different between Bedrock and Java, but if they're the same, then cool. That's not really that big of a deal. I do know there was one trade, and of course, off the top of my head, I cannot think of it, but that was different, which always kind of frustrated me, and I can't remember who it was. I know it was for one of those 4, but... Alright, biome decoration features in cave biomes now have similar frequency as Java Edition. So I'm going to assume that lends toward, of course, when you're caving, you can see the dripstone, brown and red mushroom, and glow lichen. So I'm assuming one of the 2 of them had more or less frequent spawning, and they just made it the same. I don't know exactly what they changed, but not really a big thing. I mean, dripstone is kind of annoying in Bedrock Edition because it does seem like there's a ton of it in caves now. But, I mean, dripstone's also cool because there's dripstone in real caves, right? Okay. Adjusted the other side music disc to give off a redstone signal of 14 to match Java Edition. So, I'm going to assume that is when you play the music disc other side, which I don't know if I've ever listened to that one, but it gives off a redstone pulse of 14. So, I mean, for redstoners, that could be kind of cool. Maybe they could do something with the music disc. I don't know. But, maybe that's useful. Maybe it's not, because I actually haven't seen a single, really anything Java that would warrant playing a music disc and getting a redstone signal, but whatever. And they also adjusted pig step to give off a redstone signal of 13. So basically the same thing. And now that I think about it, maybe it could be used as a randomizer. I don't know. I don't really know what the purpose of those 2 would be. Yeah. Okay, so they updated a ton of textures. And I'm not going to go through the full texture list because there's like 30 or 40 of them. Like, it's a lot. Or, well, maybe it's more like 20. But it's a lot. A lot of the texture updates, if you're a Bedrock player, trust me, you're not going to notice. There was a couple that I believe King B Dogs posted on Twitter, and it was stuff as stupid as like pumpkins and melons were off by 1 pixel from Bedrock to Java. Like, it's not like groundbreaking that they added these things. So it's cool. We have the same designs, but it, like I said, you won't even notice it. I guarantee you. And a lodestone, realistically, you find one lodestone in your world, and then you're like, okay, cool. Well, that's a lodestone, and then you never use it again. So, yeah. Okay. Okay, there's also a lot more under updated textures. They just kind of split it up into 2 lists, but there is a lot. Alright, so for those of you that do play with experimental features, maybe this will interest you. So they did a lot of updates to frogs and tadpoles. So basically, they just made tadpoles and frogs useful, I guess. I hate to say that word, but I guess that's basically the general gist of it. So basically, frogs do frog stuff, and tadpoles now do tadpole stuff. Now, the interesting thing is, frogs can eat small slimes and cause, of course, a slime ball to drop, similar to slime farms. And of course, you guys know with this update, the cave update, you know, they majorly nerf slime farms. But so far, I haven't really had an issue with that, because of being in caves like this. And you guys remember, like, this hole that we're digging goes down to bedrock. The reason I had to dig out those specific chunks that I did is because there was so many slime chunks down there. That's literally why I started digging this thing out to bedrock. So, you know, that's kind of cool that you could use frogs in a slime farm. I don't know exactly how how useful that'll be. Oh my gosh. Nothing better than getting a dry spot in your throat while you're talking for an extended period of time. Basically, they also added that frogs can be bred using seagrass, similar to turtles. So, you know, who didn't see that coming? But there you go. You can now breed frogs, and then they'll go lay their eggs in water. They also fixed a lot of, like, the mechanics for tadpole eggs, so you can't just place them randomly. And you can also catch tadpoles in a bucket now, and frogs will, of course, hatch dependent on the biome that they are born in. Now, what that's important for is the frog lights, and you guys remember how there was the 3 colors of frog lights? Well, there's 3 different types of frog, and each frog born in a specific biome will give you a specific frog light. So basically, the frog light, they haven't really added anything new for that. That's still the same concept. They have to eat a small magma cube, and then they poop out a frog light. Not super exciting, but I still think frog lights look exactly like colored sea lanterns. It's just a different color. It's cool. We have different colored light sources now, but I like more realistic light sources, like the candles and the lanterns. It'd be cool if they like added like a regular lamp into the game. You know, or furniture, something everybody has been asking for and has been in modded Minecraft forever. So, of course, they added a bunch of fixes. The fixes are just a bunch of stuff like involving crashes when entering certain menus and stuff. They're not super useful. I've never experienced any of them. Obviously, if they were voted on the bug tracker, then, you know, they were useful to somebody somewhere and they've had this problem, but none of them I've really noticed. If you want to read the crash fixes, then you can just go on Minecraft.net. Yeah. So that's about it for that. There is one other update, and I don't know if it was added with the Warden. You know, we're kind of coming full circle here, back to where we were. So there is going to be a new sneak enchantment, and it's going to be a rapid sneak. So if you guys, you know when you're in sneak mode you kind of walk super slow. I mean, makes sense. You're sneaking, right? Well, there's going to be an enchantment that will make you walk faster. And that's going to be useful for, of course, the Warden, like getting past him because, like I said, you're not supposed to kill the Warden. You're supposed to sneak past the Warden for his treasures. So they have been talking about putting it on leggings. And I guess it's kind of good. I guess it's kind of bad. I kind of read the comment thread on it on Twitter, and I kind of get both sides of the, I guess, spectrum. So basically, a lot of people are saying, it's cool because there aren't really a lot of enchantments for leggings. You basically have thorns, unbreaking, and then some sort of protection. They're basically the same as a chest plate. Like, there's not too much you can do. You can add mending too. And I mean, 4 enchantments is a lot, don't get me wrong. Like, that's cool. But I mean, you look at boots and helmet, and I mean, there's like, what, 7 that you normally put on your boots? So, I think it's cool that they're making it like, okay, pants are finally catching up because you just get your 2 enchantments and you're done with your pants pretty much. But there was also a lot of people saying, like, I know Minecraft isn't the most realistic game. We kill a dragon at the end after all. But, they were saying, like, it would probably be more realistic that it would be on your boots. And what they could also do is have it so that would limit your total enchantments. Because, like, for instance, there was that one small update and one small time in Minecraft where you could have all 4 protections on your armor. So you could have blast, fire, projectile, and regular protection on your armor. It was basically god armor. And that wasn't too long ago. But it, everybody made god armor. And of course, if you were playing in a world that you keep long term, then, you were set for quite a while, right? Like, you had basically invincibility. I mean, not technically in the literal sense, but you had the best armor there was. And then they of course got rid of that. Now, a lot of people are saying, like, if you put it on boots, you have to kind of choose between the fast sneak and say something else. So basically you would have to have different armor types for different situations, which makes sense. I mean, like, clearly blast protection is going to be better than projectile protection at, like, say, facing the wither. And you would technically want separate armor. Now, the thing is, realistically, I don't know how many people actually play with separate armors for separate things. I could see from an immersion standpoint, maybe. But really, I don't think the majority of the community wants separate armor. And that's also just similar to my playstyle too. Like, I basically get 1 set of armor and I'm good. The only thing I'm missing on the realm is soul speed. And that's just because we don't use soul sand to get anywhere. So why am I going to put an enchantment on that's kind of senseless? But, yeah. So there's, people saying, like, in terms of realism, your speed in real life is technically based on your footwear. I don't necessarily 100% buy that, but it does make sense. Like, if you're running over rocks, you're probably going to be faster wearing shoes than you are wearing nothing. I mean, something like that does make sense, but I don't know. I personally think it would kind of make leggings a tad bit more useful. And I don't want to say they're useless because they do provide protection, but like I said, it's basically like, okay, I got these, I have protection on them and mending. Not a lot of people play with thorns. I do like thorns just because it helps you deal with, like, tiny enemies like baby zombies and stuff. That's just personal preference. But it's basically protection, unbreaking, mending. All right, your leggings are done. And you really don't think about leggings too much. So I think putting the sneak enchantment on pants is actually the better idea. I'm not, super concerned about the realism of your sneakers make you faster. No, I don't care. It's Minecraft. It's a video game. Like, I'm here to have fun, and, the more stuff that is useful, and that might technically be the wrong way to say that, but the more stuff that's useful is kind of more interesting than, okay, like, my shoes made me run faster. I mean, for gosh sakes, you're playing in a game without gravity. So, I mean, you could build a house 1,000 blocks, or 300 blocks up in the air, and you don't have to support it with anything, and it won't fall down. I mean, it's not. This isn't realistic. It's a video game, and it's a very fun block-based video game. But guys, this podcast actually went on way longer than normal. There was a lot that happened, and this is a downfall of taking a week off, like I said in the beginning of the video. So, I mean, we did what we could do. So, if you guys enjoyed this podcast, please make sure you subscribe. We're trying to hit 75 subscribers here, and I think that would be amazing if we could do that before the beginning of March. And, you know, of course, hit that like button. It helps out the podcast and the video. And as always, leave a comment. I love hearing your thoughts down in the bottom. Normally, I do have a little segment where I read comments, but we, of course, did not do that this episode. So maybe I'll go back over and, you know, read them all in the next one. So that being said, I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.